Hello guys, today we'll be reacting on YouTube channel, YouTube video actually. The topic is why being environmentally friendly is a scam. And I have already watched this video. Still, I'm gonna watch this again because he has given a great insight of how the environmental friendly scam or eco-friendly scam is going on in the market. We'll be seeing and trying to understand what he actually wants to say and portray to the community. He has a massive following of 10.7 million subscribers. So this channel is also pretty good. So let's subscribe in this behalf. Let's go.
Environmentally friendly, all natural, eco-safe, non-toxic, green.
Oh, why is he acting like?
What do all these words have in common? They're The past few years have seen a huge boom in searches for environmentally friendly products and services, which, on the one hand,
Let's see what's written here. 77% of people want to learn how to live more sustainably. The data collected showed that 93% of all surveyed indicated a general concern for the environment. Major corporations were identified by almost three-quarters of respondents as responsible for reducing pollutions. Significant majority of Americans and Australians are intent on learning more about humanity impact on the environment. Of course, yes, we can see that there is some kind of massive awareness among peoples, and I think I've seen one video where people, where a YouTube video, the person where one big personality says that the next big scam will be climate change. So we don't exactly know if it's true or not, but there is a big thing on climate change and how you know the because of the this thing there would be a lot of movement across the world. So let's see.
is amazing because it means individuals care more than ever about the planet.
Sustainability deviation focus environmentally skew 39% of 5 social news skew. Nearly half of all consumers now tie social economic issues into sustainability.
But as a result, it's led to a massive industry and the rise of green marketing or greenwashing, some of which is specifically designed to trick consumers in order to simply sell more products. But no more! It's time to call them out with the 7 sins of greenwashing. Studies over the last 10 years have found that 90% of products in big box retailers throughout Canada, the US, Australia, and the UK fall into one of these 7 categories, which might be catching your attention when you're shopping, but not exactly living up to the standards you hope they are. First up, we have the sin of the hidden trade-off. This is when a company highlights the importance of fixing one environmental issue while potentially hiding a more concerning one. Let's take Nestle, for example. Oh, Nestle, the company that takes water from my hometown's aquifer, wraps it in plastic, and sells it around the world. Ooh, the company that took spring water 120 miles from Flint, Michigan for their water bottles while Michigan was suffering a major lead contamination water crisis. How cute. And as one of the world's largest water bottle manufacturers, you can imagine they're also one of the largest global polluters of single-use plastic. Wow!
I don't believe in this because if not the company Nestle, because the demand has to be fulfilled by one or more, the one or other. So I don't believe that this is a fault of Nestle because there's a big demand of the water bottles, and if the Nestle would not fulfill or Nestle would not join the market, then obviously another company would do it. So if we don't have some solutions that is more sustainable approach and which can be done in the big mass, and if you see from a sustainable point of view, right now, I think Nestle is doing since a decade or 2 decades, I guess. So I don't think it's totally the fault of Nestle because it's the demand of the market and it should be fulfilled. And if not Nestle, someone else would fulfill it. So I don't think it's the fault of a certain company, but the whole regulations of system should be changed if some sustainability approach or the government will make some laws and regulations relating to sustainability and the pollutions that a company can create and what can they do to minimize those wastes. So, and I also heard that there are many tax exemptions if some you know country or some industry or some businesses, you know, buy some big machines to minimize their waste. So yeah, I've heard of these things, but I don't think it's the only fault of Nestle.
Oh. In fact, a 2017 beach cleanup in the Philippines found Nestle products the most common brand of litter. Now, Nestle in the meantime has made a pledge that by 2025, 100% of their packaging will be recyclable and reusable. Amazing! Finally, one of the world's largest polluters of single-use plastic is taking a stand. Except they're not really. Of the 20,000 water bottles bought globally every minute, less than half of those are recycled, which means that more than 10,000 bottles bought every minute end up in a landfill or the ocean and take about hundreds of years to completely degrade. And even if Nestle does hit that fully recyclable target, it's worth noting that the world literally does not have the infrastructure in place to recycle all these bottles.
Most then, if the world does not have those infrastructures to recycle all those bottles, then that's not the fault of Nestle single alone, because uh, there's a big demand of water bottles and the products that Nestle has been creating. So I don't think it's the, as I've said earlier, that it's not the fault of a single company, but till the day that some big regulations comes, which are regulations are established, or regulations are made to the business companies, and that should be very easy for business companies to do as well, because at last it's all about the profit at the end of the day. So if they could just, if the government will give machines, or if government will make some plans on how to reuse, recycle, and upcycle these things, then of course there would be some changes. Till date the things are the same, even though the Nestle has taken some place of till that 2025, that they will be trying to reduce the wastage, and that's great from such a big company, because it's really hard to manage such a big industry. They are operating in different industries and different, and heck, a lot of countries. So it's great that they are initiating these movements, but still, not a single company or only a single company doing these things won't. That will make some difference, but it won't make a big drastic difference. So everyone has to be in this together. Every industry, not only the product, not only the fashion industry, not only the technology industry, all the other industries should be in a single uh, in a single ball, and the government should lead them on how to reduce such wastages. Without that, I think it's not really possible for a single company to completely you know cut down all the wastage, because even if the Nestle will you know produce or manufacture their products on recyclable items, still there will be lots of you know there will be lots of wastage, because there are not much recycled items, and as this guy said, that there are not much infrastructure in the world that they will be able to recycle all those things. So yeah, let's continue with the video.
Recently, in 2018, China's national sword policy banned the import of most plastics, which means that millions of recycled materials from the US are simply becoming waste. Companies like Nestle market one angle, like recyclability, without acknowledging or taking responsibility.
I don't know why this guy is only talking about Nestle. I'm not really a supporter of any thing, but only pointing at certain companies. I think it's a biased thing, because if you talk about iPhone, if you talk about Samsung, these are also the big brands. And if you talk about Unilever company of India, if you talk about Nestle has one of the big markets in India, and also Unilever, and also big companies like Reliance also have different uh, different ways that they serve the market, and all in almost 80-90% of the market is full with take, make, and west concept. So I don't think why he's only targeting the Nestle company still. But yeah, I don't think that he's not biasing, but still I think he found that Nestle is one big company, so why not to just get over it. But yeah, it's not exactly the fault of single company. It's the not exactly fault of anyone, because till date we all wanted some more nice and things, and we want easy thing. And now we knew the concept of climate change. We knew the concept of sustainability. Slowly it's gonna change. It's not that today I knew something and tomorrow it's gonna change drastically. But it's gonna change, and it will take some time. So Yeah, I think that. So let's continue the video.
Responsibility for the fact that there currently is no way to recycle all these products. Up next, the sin.
He said that 2 times, I guess.
No proof. Which is when organizations make environmental claims that they have no evidence for, and it happens all the time. Let's take Nest Labs as an example, one of the biggest producers of thermostats, which eventually became Google Nest. In 2013, Nest Labs claimed that Nest thermostats were the most environmentally friendly product in comparison to their competitors. Which is great, except for the fact that they had no proof for this claim and were later forced to remove it when they were investigated. And this is the tough part about companies making false claims, because we often don't know as consumers until it's too late. A lot of these companies seem to operate on ask for forgiveness, not permission. If a company does make a claim, the best we can do is verify that it's backed by some government body or reputable organization, which is trash, pun intended, because it puts all the onus on the consumer to research every single product they buy. The sin of awareness. This is where all the cute new catchphrases fall under, like green or eco-friendly. In Canada, greenwashing is technically illegal. For example, the term all natural must not A, include added vitamins, minerals, nutrients, artificial flavors, or food additives, B, have anything removed other than water, C, go through any processes that significantly alter the original physical, chemical, or biological state. Which sounds good on paper, except there's a loophole where companies can state made with natural flavors if just one of the flavors they mention is natural, while every other ingredient in their product is artificial or synthetic. And that's at least partially regulated here. Meanwhile, words like environmentally friendly or ethical are much more vague and meaningless. And in many parts of the world, no legal ramifications actually exist. So if a company isn't explaining exactly how they're more environmentally friendly or what they're comparing it to, because remember, everything we make has an environmental cost, they're likely just using words to sell a product to you. Ooh, but the soft blue and green packaging with pictures of nature and look at the little birdie and the cute bears. It must be environmentally friendly. Nope, not
The way he expressed is kind of fun.
likely. While the FTC in America has had green guides for businesses since 1992, they're not legally binding. Though some states like California now do have eco-labeling laws to protect consumers. Similarly, the UK doesn't have specific anti-greenwashing laws, but misleading claims can fall under consumer protection laws. Packaging that focuses on what's not in the product can often be a red flag, as it's often used to distract you from the actual ingredient list, while in cosmetics, they often focus on one specific natural ingredient to give the illusion that the other ingredients are not harmful to you or the planet. The sin of irrelevance is when an environmental claim is not helpful or relevant. For example, chlorofluorocarbon or CFCs, which can be used as refrigerants, are banned in 197 countries across the world because of their environmental impact. And yet, companies still find the need to emphasize that products are CFC free in an attempt to appear as if they're taking responsibility for protecting the environment. In reality, CFC isn't present in their product because it's illegal. And that's a good thing. The CFC ban helped protect the ozone and reduce greenhouse gas emissions drastically in the past 2 decades. But with HFC now replacing CFC, there is a risk that it's not regulated enough and could do similar damage, and that's why it's still important that we put research and regulations around alternative solutions as well. And it's frustrating to see companies hijacking the ignorance of consumers just so they can have a marketing talking point that is ultimately the bare minimum legally. The sin of lesser of 2 evils. When a slightly less harmful product is created in an environmentally harmful field, it's often touted very loudly. For example, when you see cars labeled as more fuel efficient, that's great on the one hand, but the cars are still adding significantly to CO2 emissions worldwide. In 2019, transportation accounted for 29% of US greenhouse gas emissions. Alternatives are awesome, but they can still be harmful to the environment, which is why it's important to remember that sometimes reducing or completely minimizing our use of services and products is actually the most impactful thing we can do. The sin of fame, as the name suggests, is outright false claims by corporations. Vehicle manufacturers have been the most recent culprits. In 2015, the Environmental Protection Agency found that Volkswagen used emission cheating software when external testing took place in their facilities to ensure that diesel vehicles emitted less gas and appeared cleaner than other vehicles. But Volkswagen isn't alone. Mercedes, Chevrolet, and Ford have also been found guilty of using emissions cheating software to bypass inspections. And this is where we have to demand regulations and way stricter penalties for companies that make these kind of fake claims. It's hard enough to find environmental alternatives without the added layer of companies straight up lying to our faces and then really only facing a slap on the wrist or a minor fine.
Ow! We promise not to repeat our decade-long scam on consumers ever again. We swear nobody in the company knew.
The sin of worshiping false labels. This is related to the hundreds of third-party certification and claims given to products with no real guarantee the claims are true. Of course, there are some labels that are audited and more legitimate than others, but as an example, in one research study, a product of paper towels had a certification that said fights global warming. There needs to be a huge emphasis on reputation for third-party verification because a lot of these third-party organizations claim they'll verify but don't do often enough. And as a consumer, how are we supposed to understand the legitimacy of every single label that could possibly be slapped on a product? We can't. So what can you do? Okay, so this was a lot and it might sound a little doom and gloom. Sorry about that. Add these sins on top of the fact that we hear about cotton tote bags creating less waste but more CO2 than plastic bags, or electric vehicles only being more environmentally friendly when the local grid they're on is also using renewable energy and not just creating that electricity from fossil fuels, or the fact that the lithium mining of their batteries is related to the destruction of freshwater supplies and fish, or how ride-sharing apps claim to be part of the solution by streamlining transportation but only added more vehicle miles than ever. It could sometimes feel like there's no hope, and no matter what we do, we lose. Not to mention straws getting so much attention. But obviously there are genuine, major efforts by some corporations and brands to not only minimize their impact, but actually create more sustainable products. So how do we know what to support? The shitty part of the answer is to be more informed yourself, which I know is not scalable and puts the onus on you instead of the corporations who should be bearing the responsibility, but if it's something you care about now, it's a place to start. Long term, we need to engage socially and politically. I know for some people the word regulation might make you cringe, especially our American followers for some reason, but it works. Remember, it's regulation that made cigarette companies admit and openly show that they're bad for your health, even when they swore up and down they weren't. It was the Montreal Protocol that helped establish an international treaty to help protect the ozone layer. This is what projections looked like with and without the protocol. The world's largest manufacturer of tissue paper, Kimberly-Clark, destroyed mass amounts of boreal forest in Canada, which was home to almost 1 million indigenous people. In response, the Clear Cut campaign began, and in 2011, a policy change took place that forced the company to purchase pulp outside the boreal forest. Now it must be approved by the Forest Stewardship Council, which is a third-party organization that validates safe environments. The Keystone Pipeline XL is one of the biggest climate change stories of the past decade. Concern about damage to indigenous lands, oil spills damaging the environment, and the drilling of oil sands led to the State Department in the US creating a report that stated the environment was at little risk for harm. But the strange part about this report was that the authors had their names removed. And when the names were finally revealed, it was shown that a lot of these members were responsible for approving other pipelines. This conflict of interest was hidden to prove that the pipeline had little to no risk. In reality, it was very dangerous for the environment. The protests against the pipeline got so big, in 2011 there was a span of 2 weeks in front of the White House where 1,253 arrests were made. Where are we with the pipeline today? The great news is, after a decade-long fight, TransCanada has canceled the pipeline project. It can be a slog and take a long time, but when we stand up to corporations and the government to protect the environment, they have to listen. These companies aren't willingly going to sacrifice their profits for the betterment of humanity, so we need to make them. And that starts by supporting or joining efforts or movements to impact our laws in effort to protect the environment. I hope this video, while calling out the eco-fakes of the world, can also provide a little bit of hope. Yes, there will always be intentional scam artists, but knowing that every single day more individuals are caring about the environment, taking a stand in their own life and making their voice be heard gives me a lot of hope in the long run. We've seen a lot of great examples of what happens when people stand up, and I think we're gonna see a lot more. Speaking of change, I wanna thank today's sponsor Skillshare, who's giving a free month trial